Here we go.
Okay, good deal. Well, welcome to Voices of Recovery. Randy Klein, Pastor Jill Beck, and
You had to
today,
put me out there like that, didn't you?
and today we've got a good friend of mine that has been around this fellowship a long time. Him and I spent a lot of time together back in the day, and it's really a pleasure and an honor to have Eddie with us today. And I mention this to you, but I do it every time, and we don't know why Eddie's distorted. He must. I don't know what's going on because he's really not 110 years old. So
I can give you 110 reasons why I should be distorted.
That's right.
Love it.
And I'm really thrilled that Eddie's with us today. And, one of the questions, and I told Eddie I was going to ask him this because people have to think about that. That moment. What was that one moment that you just had enough, where you just threw your hands in the air and said, "I can't live like this anymore, man. I can't do it." What did that?
It's funny. You don't ever think about that moment when you're in it. You don't think about getting there. You're just fumbling to get there, and then when you get there, you go, "Why am I here? Why am I doing this? Why is life so complicated? Why isn't it a coincidence that every time I get arrested, I'm drunk or high?" I just thought it was, a coincidence. And it was that point when after my wife gave birth to my first son, it was 1 month after that. And I'm not saying that I did this because of the birth of my son, but you asked for a specific time, a specific moment. And that was the moment. I tease my son today. He's turning 40 in June, and I'm celebrating 40 years of sobriety in July. Awesome. So I always tell him he has a month older than me because he was born a month older than when I came to be. And that was the moment for me where I was home. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I remember I was in the Navy. I was going to work in Brooklyn. I was walking on a really crowded street in the traffic, and I dropped to my knees in traffic in Brooklyn. And I just dropped to my knees in my Navy whites, and it was raining out. And I remember I don't know what it was. I don't know. I have no idea. I wish I did because I put it on the shelf in the supermarket and we'd be rich. But I don't know what it was. So I dropped to my knees, and the cars were whizzing by me, and they were blowing their horns. And well, they were just blowing their horns because I was causing traffic. They weren't concerned about me.
Not in Brooklyn.
Cops came, an ambulance came, and they immediately put me in a straitjacket. This was 1986. Back then, they didn't know. They figured you were just crazy. There was no other reason for you to be on your knees in the rain in a Navy outfit, except that you were crazy. So they put me on a stretcher, and they got me to the hospital. The hospital was Bailey Seton Hospital in Staten Island. When I got to the hospital this time, a guy met me there, and he grabbed me by my ear. I'll never forget it. Grabbed me by my ear and dragged me into the hospital. No compassion, no, "Come here, buddy, I'm going to take care of you." None of that. It was, come here, you idiot. And he brought me into this room, and he sat me down, and for an hour he started to tell me stories and stuff. And I was so upset because I was upset at the Navy for telling this civilian my story. Why would you tell him my story? They didn't tell him my story. I was listening to his story.
Right.
And that was amazing. I said, wow, another person has gone through all this stuff that I had gone through. And he had mentioned, he said, listen, what you need to get better is you need AA, and you need a higher power. And you've got to find that in AA. It was just a magical moment in my life that, it brought me. That was July 18th, 1986.
Wow.
And it just brought me to my life. So that's why I tell my son, he's 1 month older than me. He takes advantage of that as well. You know, he says, I got to get more money and, you know, all this, I'm better in the will and stuff, but whatever. But that was the moment.
Thank you. That's awesome.
So let me ask you a question. What are those daily things that you do like this? I mean, you know, we call those the old timers, right? So from an old timer to somebody who maybe just today has decided to put down the drink, what are those daily things that you do to keep yourself in check for your recovery?
The daily things I do are it's funny, and I sometimes I hate to speak because my life and my story sounds so fictional. It sounds so fake. You know, if I was on the other end listening to me, I would look at me and go, "Shut up, you liar!" And I'm not lying, and there's no way to get this across to anybody else except I'm going to tell you the truth. I will not lie to you. But the daily things I do is I include my program in my life in everything I do. In everything I do. You know why? Because when I was getting high and when I was drinking, my drinking and my getting high was in my life all the time. If I wasn't getting high, I was thinking about how I was going to get high. If I didn't have the money to get high, I would think about how I was going to get the money to get high. You know, I apologized to my mother before she passed away for robbing her. And she goes, "Oh, stop it." You know, I said, "No, I would go into your purse every day and take money out. And, you know, even when I had money, because of the backup, I wanted to have the backup. I wanted to make sure." Yeah, it was my whole life was around how I was going to get high. So to battle that, my whole life today is how am I going to stay sober? Because as you guys know, I am an arm's length away, from getting high and from drinking.
One decision, I always say, one decision away. So really what I hear you saying is, to clarify it for others, is that it's not about working the program as much as it is about living it. We have to embody. Our whole lives have to embody the program.
Yeah, the first 5 and 10 years, you learn about the program and you practice staying sober.
Yeah.
You have to, because you got to break up the old habits. That's why they tell you when you come into AA, they tell you go 90 meetings in 90 days. They want you to get your feet wet. They want you to learn how to what is the terminology? What does sobriety mean?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, I think for most of the people, they have to learn how to say anonymous, because people I always say, if you don't know how to say anonymous, don't come into the meetings. But there's certain things that you have to learn to say and you learn to do, and that's why the 90-90. So that's the period of learning about it. And then I always say my spiritual awakening, and I think this is important. Well, I know it's important in my life, but my spiritual awakening is today. I don't have to worry about wanting to get drunk or get high. That compassion and that compulsion for me to drink and to get high has left me.
Right.
That's left me. And that's my spiritual awakening. Is for something like that to happen is truly a miracle. Because again, I used to think about it every day. Now I don't think about drinking every day. I don't think about not drinking every day. I don't think about getting to a meeting every day. I don't think about helping others every day. They just happen automatically. And that's what I think that secures my program.
You know, it's exhausting, isn't it? You know, we're drinking and using. It's exhausting. You know, we're doing it. We're getting over it. We're thinking about it. You know, it's just exhausting. And when, you know, I know that you work with men. I work with men. You know, Jill works is involved with a new women's program and a men's program also in the Ocala area. So it just annoys me a little bit when they're like, you know, that's a lot. And I always have to remind them that you were pulling water from a mud puddle to shoot dope. Are you kidding me? The thing that it just drives me, well, it's a lot of work, because I always have to remind them, and it's for myself too, that it was a full-time job. I mean, drinking, using, getting over it, doing it again. It was just it was exhausting, man. So for me to give a couple hours a day, what a relief. Come on.
I'm going to give you guys a little story that you probably never heard of, and you could sit back and you can relax and you can go to the beach and listen to this one. But I remember there were days when there was 3-4 feet of snow outside. That snow is what happens when it rains and it freezes up.
Okay.
Are you guys familiar with it at all?
We don't get that.
I've seen it on TV.
No.
But anyway, when I talked to a sponsee, and the sponsee is someone that asked me to be their sponsor and to help them out get through the program. And I say, okay, what meeting are you going to tonight? And they say, are you kidding me? It's snowing like crazy out there. And I just remind them, I said, okay, if me and you were going to go out to get high, would that even come out of your mouth?
Right.
It wouldn't. We would dig tunnels to get to our stuff. We would there's anything that we would do. You say it goes through all measures. And and they say specifically in some of the readings, half measures don't work.
That's right.
Don't work. Let's not go halfway to a meeting, say we tried and come back. No, you got to go all the way to the meeting. So when I always say that denial is not a river in Egypt. People love to use the denial, and how seriously, and I don't have a lot of people that I sponsor because of that. Because I'll tell them, the first thing I'll tell them to do is call me tomorrow.
Right.
And guess what they don't do?
They don't call.
They don't call. So they call me the day after and they say, well, it's good to have you as sponsor. Well, and I tell them, well, it's good to have me as a past sponsor, but you don't have me as a sponsor anymore. And they go, why not? I said, well, I asked you to call me yesterday. And they say, well, I couldn't because, well.
I was busy. I was too busy.
Okay. Time to look for a new sponsor. You got plenty of time now.
Yeah, I got a couple kids now working with it.
And they say I'm a hard butt, and it's
okay. Sometimes we need that.
And I get people at the meetings. I have another old timer that in my home group, and my home group is I look forward to it's Wednesdays at 5:30, and I look forward to getting to my home group because these are people that really, really love you and really, really know you, and on a daily basis you're communicating with them. But I have an old friend there, and he hates when I get hard in meetings. He hates when I say things like that. Because he says, oh, the newcomer, this. I said, well, you got to stop coddling that. I mean, if this guy that met me and didn't grab me by my ear and bring me into the hospital, if he didn't do that, if he hugged me, I'd be dead. There's no way I'd be around, Yeah, and go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, my sponsor, he pulled up one time. That's just how they were, man. He pulled up and he goes, I said, hey, what meeting were we going to? You know what he told me? He said, shut up and get in the truck. And then on the way to the meeting, I was like, where are we going? He goes, we're going to a rehab. I said, rehab? I'm 90 days sober. He says, that's 90 days more sober than anybody else has gotten there. And he goes, so just keep your mouth shut. And when I ask you to share. And then before we got in, he goes, we're going to pray. He grabs my hand and he goes, real quick. And he goes, okay, let's go. I mean, there wasn't, are you okay? Are you feeling okay?
The hug bunny.
That was, the
hug. Well, hold on. There are people that need that too.
Yes, there are.
They do.
Yeah.
And hopefully they get it. But it's not for me. I'm not that guy. And and I know people that will hug and will kumbaya. Yeah, everybody. That's not me. And in that same meeting, I get these young kids that come after me in the meeting. He said, they say, don't be bothered by him because, I need to hear what you need to say. Right. And that's all I'm doing. Right. Every day you're in a meeting, every day you're on the street, every day you're meeting people. the way I stay sober and the way every human being should stay sober is to help another human being.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah, we don't have.
I'm not just saying with alcohol and drugs. I'm saying open the door for somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Say good morning to somebody.
Right.
You know, I know when I was sitting in the bar when I was back in Brooklyn and somebody told me that, I would say, "Oh, you damn sissy, what are you doing?" You know, but that's reality. And again, I promised you in the beginning of this, I will tell you the truth, and that is the truth. So
I hear you. It's look, you and I don't have signs that say get off our lawn, but we're a little older now. We've been through a lot, and we can kind of spot the BS a mile away. And I quite frankly don't have time for it. So if you want it, I'm here for you. I love you. Find somebody that's a little more, and it's not about not having empathy. At this point in my life, it's I got a short fuse. And I have to work on that. I mean, I get it, especially when I go to an NA meeting, because there's only like 3 people in there that have got over it anyway, right?
Yeah.
So
it's such a joy, Randy, and I don't mean to embarrass you, but it's such a joy to know you and to still be friends with you, because me and you were brothers while we were out there drinking and drugging, and I mean brothers. I mean, you were closer to me than any of my immediate. I come from a family of 8 kids, and Randy was tighter with me, and we used to do things that it's just. I mean, my kids still dance like Randy out on the dance floor because I taught them how to do that. But we still we were close. So to go along this road with somebody who knew you back then is a joy. Is a joy. And I remember we were driving down to Florida and we passed Lake Okeechobee, and the kid said, "We were there." We were there, and we came there and we stood with Randy and Dawn and his kids. Right. And it was just a different time in our lives that it's so, and that's what you got to do in this program. They tell you people, places, and things. You got to break them old habits. The people that you're going to be calling shouldn't be the drug dealer. If you go in a barbershop every day, you're eventually going to get a haircut.
That's right.
Does that every day?
Yeah, I mean, if you go to a drug den or if you go to a bar, you're eventually going to drink and get high. And it's just the way it is. So you got to break them habits, and you got to find new habits. Right. And my life is so full of just happiness and good things that have happened that it just. And again, I'm not lying. It's so hard.
Ed, it has been so great to be with you and get to know you just a little bit, and really to kind of see this one through your eyes. So, yeah, thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah.
My goodness. Yeah.
I saw this one thing in the book here, and it has a picture of you and I here, right? You got that picture when I was in upstate New York camping, and it's you and I standing there. And
well, I remember when you told me too. You said, I'm writing a book and I'm putting you in there. And then I suddenly, for 2 days, had to recant everything that we done and went, I know he's smarter than this.
No, I couldn't do that. We'd both be in jail.
I know. we were in jail. We were in.
We were headed there.
We were in Norway and Sweden, and we, as United States sailors, we actually stopped international incidents.
At least that's what I told them when Shore Patrol came.
That's what Randy told the captain on the ship. He said, "Excuse me, sir, you have no idea. Me and Eddie, we stopped international incidents."
Well, listen,
and they bought it.
This is the one thing I just wanted to say here. It says every blackout, hangover, broken relationship, financial misstep, and inability to face reality eventually helped me reach my bottom, a place where despair, loneliness, and shame thrive. I was starting to spend a great deal of time in that reality, and dying seemed to be a better option than living. What a change in our life from then and now. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
It truly is. It truly is. And again, I should have that big sign behind me saying I'm not lying. And because you tell this to a newcomer, you tell this to a person coming from the drug den. That's or you say this to a person who's still high, who's coming down, and they don't believe you. I just purchased a brand new RV, and I named my RV The Promises. And I named it The Promises because it was a promise. I've gone from foreclosing on my house to building a new one now.
Right.
I'm building a house. A guy from Brooklyn is building a house in upstate New York. and people, and people say to me, don't bother to build. I'm not bothering anybody. I'm just happy to, it's part of the promises. It's part of the rewards. Every day I drive around and I have things that remind me of my program, like road rage. You got to get rid of that.
Pastor Joe, I'm talking to you.
Me too. I have that, and I have that to the point where I've had guys pull guns on me, and and I think I could stop the bullet, and I'm going, no, you can't.
Well, listen, man, we're running out of time. We got to go. Pastor Jill is a very important woman. She's got things to do.
He's got to get on that road and start. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, it's funny.
I'm covered by the blood. Listen, when it comes to that, I am covered by the blood.
You and I talk about that like it's only a man thing, but knowing her so well, I know this isn't true. So, Eddie,
I would love to come down there and join one of your services sometime and to meet with you guys. And it's just, Randy, I would meet with you every day. You know how much I love you. Jill, it's wonderful to meet you, and to even know the guy sitting next to you is you've gone us on a higher plateau for me. You are above.
I tell her that all the time.
Yeah, I know.
But I don't have an ego issue, so that's good to know.
Well, y'all are starting to get fun, so.
Well, thank you so much for having me, man.
Thank you so much, Eddie.
Thanks for being
God
here
bless
with
you,
us.
Man.